Today I went down to Puckpool Park. While Puckpool today is a popular public recreational ground, this was not always the case. The unique hilly terrain of the park was originally designed and created for use by the British military in the late 1800s and saw active military service in both world wars. I came here to show and tell you guys about just one of the many similar sites like this where I'm from on the Isle of Wight. Puckpool was originally an artillery station designed in the 1800s to protect the mainland from a naval invasion. The entire area around Puckpool was artificially created by the British government, effectively. All of the mounds and hills and mountains are basically man-made, none of it's natural. But Puckpool as a whole still has a really nice aesthetic look, and that's why these days it's still a popular public park that people go to just to relax, have picnics and do other things like that. When Puckpool was originally built, it had over 50 of the heaviest mortars that Britain could effectively muster. These were pretty much leftover Napoleonic-era mortars, and they were primarily designed for sinking wooden ships, which meant within 10 years of Puckpool's construction, the entire site was basically obsolete because ships in the 1850s to 1870s all of a sudden went from wooden ships of the line to metal ironclad ships, which were basically impenetrable from old-fashioned mortars and cannons. In the 1890s, to counter the threat of the new ironclad ships, which are far more modern and far more heavily armoured, like the French Ocean class and the British Warrior class, ships similar to this, Puckpool was fitted with 4 11-inch rifled guns. These were far more modern guns, and they were able to penetrate even the most heavily armoured ships at the time, before the First World War. And because they were fitted with a rifled barrel, they were able to shoot ships even out in the Solent that were possibly 7 or 8 miles away, and they could still either sink them or cause enough damage to make them leave again. In the build-up to World War I, the government also added extra 9.2-inch guns and extra 6-inch guns, which were also used for anti-naval operations and to a limited extent, I suppose, anti-air as well. So by World War II, Puckpool was fitted out 4 12-inch, 12.2-inch guns with 4 11-inch guns, 2 9.2-inch guns, 2 to 4 6.4-inch guns, and an additional 30 mortars, more modern mortars that would still be able to do damage to ships, as the mortar rounds would come in vertically and most ships didn't have sufficient armour on their decks, so mortars were still quite a threat to ships in the war, but obviously they were more modern types of mortars rather than the old-fashioned ones they were originally fitted out with in the 1800s. After World War I, the land here was sold back to the local council, and that's when it was first turned into a sort of leisure area for the public. In World War II, it was reopened as a small military base, but it was really then used for training for the Royal Navy's air arm. And also it was an anti-aircraft placement, and the original guns were replaced with 40mm God, he's a noisy one. One of the nice things about the site is a lot of the buildings, the original buildings, are still standing. Things like the barracks and the magazines and the officers' quarters, they're still around and you can still see them, though you can't really get into them because a lot of the places, especially the underground bunkers, have been concreted up to stop people going in. Which is a bit sad really, because the actual places themselves seem to be pretty well maintained, and I don't think there'd really be a health threat. So it would have been nice to be able to go inside and have a look around. So in a nutshell, right, I think it's about time we escape these horribly noisy seagulls. I'm going to take you and just have a look around the site so you can see what it actually looks like. It's actually a really nice place to come just for a picnic with friends or to hang out and have a barbecue. It's just a really nice place to go, really. So let's go have a look around. So this down here behind me would have been one of the 6.2-inch guns in World War I, and in World War II that would have been one of the 40mm anti-air guns that they would have fitted just here. You can still see you can still see where built into the battlements they've got all the bits where they would have stored all the ammunition and stuff like that. It's really interesting how all these battlements are designed, because you can see the practical focus in mind, where they've got the actual placements for the guns in the ground here, and they've got the concrete slabs up the front so the shells can go into the hill in front of the placement, or they'll fly over the top and they'll hit the mounds behind the battlements. It's amazing to think the amount of work that must have gone into individual men with shovels just shoveling the dirt onto these formations. Must have took a really long time, especially when you think it was originally, the earthworks was all done in the 1860s. So this area behind me here would have been where one of the 11.2-inch gun emplacements were. which at the time were the exact same types of guns they were putting on their Dreadnought class battleships. So that shows you how insanely huge the guns on these ships actually were. The fact that this entire area here was for one single gun. Like, that really makes you think the battleships themselves were absolutely massive. And to think the battleships got 2 or 3 times bigger over the course of the war, it's absolutely mad. So while they try to block off all the places around here as well, there is a nice little hill you can come sit on out here as well, which is sort of overgrown and stuff, but you can still get to it, which is pretty nice. Wow, there we go. You can see all the rabbit holes where like the rabbits live up here because it's the safest area. Whoa. So here we go. I don't know why they blocked off this area because it's probably like one of the nicest areas to sit in. It's just a nice big hill, which gives you an amazing view of like the entire area of Puckpool. I'm not sure what this was, but I assume it was one of the actual like bunkers where people either lived in or they did something important here, which is why it had such a central location. Overall though, it's a really nice area. You can see there's a kids play park over there where lots of people come with their kids, and the building over there is actually the officers' barracks, where the officers on the like the artillery or the air base, whatever you want to call it at the time, that's where the officers would live, in that little house over there. So there was probably really only, you know, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them. There wasn't a whole lot of officers, and I'd imagine the entire base probably really only had maybe 50 to 100 people. That right there's a Spitfire, by the way. Fucking awesome. So the Isle of Wight's one of the few places in the UK that still has Spitfires. So we quite routinely have Spitfires flying overhead. And you can tell by the distinctive sort of deep gargling noise of the engine, which is pretty cool. I hope you enjoyed a quick look at the Artillery anti-air base. I thought you found it sort of interesting. And yeah, if you're ever in Ryde on the island, you just have to walk along the beach right to the end and turn right and you'll get to Puckpool. It's a pretty nice place. So yeah, thanks for watching. And if you want to see more stuff like this, whether it's to do with history, food, culture, whatever, have a look at my other videos. There's probably some interesting stuff somewhere. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.